And joining me now with a reaction to my opening statement and all the latest developments in the Mueller report fallout, President Trump's attorney, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Good evening, Mayor.
It's an honor to be with you again.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I think of you.
Thank
and
you.
your entire career.
Thank you.
You're a crusader for justice.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about this. Now, what we've got is this report not only exonerated the president, it indicted the FBI, the DOJ, and there was a time when you and I would be talking and we'd say, Jeff Sessions is the Attorney General. Nothing's going to happen. Will something happen now?
Well, first of all, I know you agree with me. The people it indicts are the corrupted politicians at the top of the FBI and DOJ. No field office of the FBI is implicated in this.
Right.
No agent who's sacrificing his life to protect us. It's a bunch of these phony politicians at the top who corrupt themselves because they want to suck up to who's ever in power. That, I would describe Comey that way, a whole bunch of other people like that. McCabe, his wife running for office, getting millions of dollars from Hillary's. These are suck-up politicians. They're not FBI agents like you know,
right.
or police
not the guys that
not
you
the
and I
guys who go out and arrest
yes.
people, put their lives on the line.
Yeah.
My God, they'd probably, their hands would shake if they had to do that.
Yes.
So that's who we're talking about.
Right, the upper echelon.
What they did here, I believe over the next 6 months, we're going to uncover evidence that what they did here was criminal. This whole thing of collusion isn't true. I was with Donald Trump for the last 5 months of the campaign. He didn't never talk to a Russian. He had nothing to do with a Russian. As he would point out, I don't speak Russian. What are they doing this for?
Right.
Somebody made this up, Janine. Somebody conceived this. And they superimposed it, and then they went out to try to prove it. And we have to find out who's the brains behind this. A couple of 4 or 5 possibilities. I think we'll find them. I think that Lindsey Graham will help, but I think we need a Justice Department investigation of who tried to perpetrate a fraud on the American people.
Why haven't we heard about or from Christopher Steele, the people from Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson,
They should all be in jail.
Right. You and I agree on that. I mean,
you and I got struck.
McCabe, the intent is evidence in the emails. I mean, we hope to be able to prove intent. It's right there.
Why is Cabe running around selling his book when he should be in jail for perjury? Why is Orr and his wife, when he should be in jail for conflict of interest and maybe bribery? I mean, it's about as clear. I mean, I prosecuted these people, put them in jail for these things. Orr's conflict of interest was like, I could prove it in a 3-day trial.
But this is what the American people are struggling with right now. The idea that what they see and what they know instinctively now that is clear from the Mueller report, there is a total exoneration of the president and the indictment of the FBI and the DOJ ultimately.
There's no collusion, which there's not. This is the 3rd or 4th investigation that's found no collusion. How many more do we have to have? That moron Schiff, I don't know what he is actually, Shiftless Schiff, wants to do another investigation, like the 5th. If these people couldn't have found collusion, 13 of them angry Democrats, some of them donated enormous amounts of money to Hillary, some of them were at her party crying, and one of them was the counsel to the Clinton Foundation.
Well, there's no question they were conflicted.
So if they couldn't find it,
was conflicted. Start with him.
You would be shocked if I told you the things they did to people to try to press them to lie about Donald Trump. And thank God, some of these people wouldn't lie. They have a lot more character than the prosecutors who were investigating them.
Now, what I want to ask you is there is apparently an 87-page report that you have on Mueller and the special counsel. Things that the special counsel did that you have, quote, said you're sure he wouldn't want the public to hear. What has Mueller done that outrages you?
Well, let me just focus on one thing, because that's been public. Manafort. I don't know what else Paul did, in Ukraine, whatever else.
Right.
But these are white-collar crimes. They closed the case in 2014. They only reignited the case because he became the first advisor and then campaign manager to Donald Trump. They raided him in the morning. They frightened the hell out of his family. They put him in solitary confinement for 9 months.
The man's 70 years old. That's crazy.
If they did it to a terrorist, these civil rights lawyers would be in court saying you can't do this.
Okay, I have to ask you one quick question.
No civil rights lawyer came forward for Manafort.
Nope. Because
this
it's
guy
about the
was
right and the
sitting
left.
23 hours a day looking at his shoes, and then they bring him in and tell him what he had to say.
Okay, one quick question.
You have to implicate Trump. If you don't implicate Trump, you're going back to solitary confinement.
The judge knew that. What was it, Judge Elliott? But let me ask you this.
It's disgraceful.
You're with President Trump. He finds out the Mueller report is out. He's quiet for 2 days. He doesn't tweet. What's going on in the White House? How is he reacting? What is he saying?
Well, when we got the news that it was no collusion,
right,
no obstruction,
right,
I was relieved. I have to tell you, I was relieved. I was ready, and we were sitting there for 3 days with our entire group, ready to, boom, hit back if they said anything. Because I believe that no matter what they say, we can prove to the American people that it's not true.
Right.
Because I know something they don't know. He didn't collude with the Russians at all. He had nothing to do with the Russians.
And he's been saying that all along.
And how stupid is an obstruction of justice when Mueller went from the beginning to the end of the investigation and nobody stopped him? 500 witnesses. We didn't object to a single one. 1.4 million documents.
Right.
There's not a single thing Mueller could say he wanted he didn't get.
Right.
So they're like, oh, did the president think he might obstruct, or did he ever think he might fire Mueller?
Yeah, I think we're reaching.
First of all, he didn't.
Right.
And second, we don't prosecute people for their thoughts.
All right.
God almighty, half of America would be in jail if we prosecuted for their thoughts.
For sure. All right. Counsel to the president, Rudy Giuliani.
I am so glad you're back. We need, at this time that our country is in trouble, we need your common sense voice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We need you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, well, a lot of people have been talking about Eric Swalwell and his comments. We thought we would talk to Eric Swalwell and his comments. The California Democratic congressman, possible presidential candidate, joins us right now. Congressman, welcome.
Good morning, Neil. Thanks for having me back.
When you made these comments, my only thought was, do you know something that I don't know? Do you know something, for example, in the Mueller report that others are unfamiliar with? Because to call the president a Russian agent or to make that charge amidst a report that's been headlined that there was no collusion really makes folks wonder, where are you coming from?
Well, Neil, I'm not going to apologize for loving this country and being someone who benefited from free markets,
no,
free
but that
ideas,
wasn't my question, sir. My question was
so
whether you called the president. I understand that, but you essentially called the president a foreign agent of the Russians, and I'm wondering, there's a report out that seems to disavow that.
Have you read the report?
No, but neither of you, right? So you don't accept the points that the Attorney General raised. If the report comes out and confirms what the Attorney General has said, and by the way, Mueller and his folks certainly would have corrected the Attorney General if he got it wrong, would you acknowledge that you got this wrong?
Well, would you acknowledge that there's a difference between being criminally liable for conspiracy but having conduct that is wrongdoing? So my belief, Neil, is that you don't have to have access to classified information. You don't have to be a lawyer to see that lying about business dealings in Russia, allowing your son to take meetings with the Russians that offered dirt on Hillary Clinton, and also asking the Russians to keep hacking after they're attacking our democracy is wrong. And then while you're president, to meet with the Russians, to reduce sanctions against the Russians, to diminish the role of NATO, to allow them to continue to persist in Ukraine is wrong. And to have a meeting with Vladimir Putin where you kick everyone else out of the room and take the interpreter's notes is suspicious. You don't have to read Bob Mueller's report to just say that is a betrayal of our country.
But everyone in your party, sir, and everyone in the other party was waiting for this report 2+ years in the making. If it says no collusion, and you're quite right, it could be an open-ended issue on obstruction of justice. Maybe there wasn't enough evidence to support that. Maybe there was. We'll find out, to your point, when it comes out. But do you think it's irresponsible to make a comment like that when, as you acknowledge, you don't know what that report says?
No, not at all, Neil. And I'll give you an example. Your network all week has expressed outrage about the Smollett case, the fact that we all know what happened. There were witnesses, he lied about it, but yet he was not criminally charged. And I would submit to you that couldn't it be the same case, that we know what happened with Donald Trump and his team and the Russians, that they all lied about it, but just like in the Smollett case, it doesn't reach that high standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt?
Well, one was a report that was more than 2 years in the making. We don't know a lot about.
Well, it was the President of the United States. We want to make sure we get it right.
So let me get this straight, because same criticism for your committee chairman, Adam Schiff, that he jumped the gun to still argue collusion and to still argue that. Do you think that is responsible in a report that might raise some damning behavioral issues for the president, but that it wasn't deemed enough to warrant further indictments of other individuals, the president included?
Well, again, I think you and I agree that we want to see the full report. But, and I don't, don't want to get too nuanced here, but there is a difference between proof beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest standard in the law, which is that's higher than more likely than not, and wrongdoing. You don't need to have the Mueller report to see all the things that this president did
then why
with
the
the
heck
Russians.
did we
can't
do
just
it?
scrub
You
that
were
from our
for the
memory.
Mueller report, right? I mean, why the heck did we do it? Now, by the way, the report might raise some of the issues you just did, but why the hell did we go through this, spend the tens of millions of dollars we did, if you're saying I don't need to see it to know that the president's a crook?
Well, no. I'm saying on the issue of, did the president seek to work with the Russians? Did he ask them to keep hacking? Did he welcome their support? Did he take actions that benefited them? We don't need to see the Mueller report. We've seen all of that. The Mueller report, by the way, has also produced over 30 indictments, 6 guilty pleas, and others who are still, under criminal investigation. So it's not like it produced nothing.
Fair enough, and more in that case for lying and all that. But you're quite right. But let me step back.
But in America, Neil, you don't get away. You don't get to bury the evidence and then get off scot-free. If we find that you are lying or obstructing or tampering with witnesses to get away from the underlying crime, there's a penalty for that, and I think that's for good reason.
And those people who you quite rightly raised are suffering and enduring that penalty as we speak. But no additional people.
The president's
all the way
chairman,
up to
his lawyer,
I
his national
understand
security
that.
advisor.
But no one in addition to that in this latest report conclusion leading all the way up to the president. Do you think they should have been?
I want to see the full report. I will accept anything Mueller says. I have the fullest.
But you're not. You're not. If he says that, and you obviously question you question the conclusions of the Attorney General, when again, if any of those conclusions were wrong, I'm sure Mueller would have raised it. But you're not going to accept, it sounds to me, whatever that report is.
No. Again, Neil, I want to go back to the Smollett case.
If that report says that the president was not a Russian agent, Congressman, would you say the president is not a Russian agent?
The president acts on Russia's behalf. I don't need to see the Mueller report for that.
So then you don't care
Neil,
what the report says. You've drawn your own conclusions.
Oh, no,
right?
I care deeply. I care deeply what the report says.
No, you don't. You just said you don't. You don't care what the report says because you've drawn your own conclusions, right?
No, Neil, I care what the report says. I am telling you that there is a difference between what you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt and wrongdoing that we all have seen. Just because you are off scot-free for a crime doesn't mean you didn't do something wrong, and I think you would agree with that.
But we don't know if that's the case. You've already said it is.
Well, I know. I don't need to see the report to see that the president's kids met with the Russians in Trump Tower.
Other, but you're quite right. We'll see when the report comes out whether it can settle it once and for all or not.
And please bring me back on. I want to talk about it with you.
We'll always enjoy it. Congressman, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Neil.